Do you ever wonder how some players seem to climb way faster than others? Like those guys who were silver a couple months ago and then 2 acts later, they're in diamond edging into immortal. Quick improvement is a phenomenon in gaming that players attribute to a lot of things. Time, talent, passion, experience, and sometimes sheer luck. But if you didn't have those things or only one of them, it's frustrating to see other players achieve progress way faster than you. And while it's obviously true that someone who has 10 hours to play Valorant will have an easier time improving than you if you only have 2 to 3 hours a day, I'm here to tell you that improvement is not as clear-cut as it seems, and that if you use your time wisely, I can help you reach your goals in a third of that time. What's going on, ProGuides fam? It's your resident Radiant Royal G, and if you're interested in improving quickly and efficiently, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's jump into my take on how you can improve quickly in Valorant. When we talk about improving at games, most people just think it's a ton of repetition, game time, and sheer passion. And while that is definitely one way to approach it, some people just don't benefit from the advice that says, just play more, or just put in more effort. I mean, when it's said that way, it just seems like time is the resource at hand and you're competing with others based on your hours played. For me, no matter how many times I tried that approach, it just didn't feel right. I was improving, sure, but every second felt like a dredge, and I had to keep convincing myself that I was doing the right thing. And after enough hours of feeling like crap, I would burn out and feel a lack of motivation to even touch the game. So, what was causing this? Get ready for this. It's confidence. Okay, wait guys, before you leave, hear me out. I know it sounds crazy, but I actually think confidence is a hugely important factor that holds us back from improving quickly. Here's the deal. I'll tell you my reasoning, and if you don't agree, feel free to leave. But if you do agree, then everything in this video will be super relevant to improving. Deal? Okay, now that we have that out of the way, let's get into it. The reason I say confidence is what made my practice feel like crap was because I didn't really trust the process. Spending hours and hours just doing death matches and shooting targets in the range felt like a huge waste of time, and in game, it just felt like even if I spent more hours than someone else, I wasn't guaranteed to win. Not only did that hurt my practice time, but I felt bad in the game as well because even if I did improve, I didn't feel like I was improving. And you know how they say you play like how you practice? Well, that's what I did. Play unconfidently and frustrated. I would enter a game not knowing what I actually improved at and wondering if I would even play better. Naturally, that was not a sustainable way to play the game. Okay, so at this point, if you don't relate to this feeling, then I would say that maybe this guide isn't for you. But I would think that every player has run into this feeling at some point after practicing, and some players cope with it while other players just gave up. Either way, I don't judge, but I'm going to teach you how to fix this problem. But before we do that, I have to recommend to you guys AimLab, because AimLab was one of the resources that helped me learn to train effectively. They've got metrics to track progress, tons of different scenarios, and also pro-created playlists that lets me challenge myself. I won't say it's the perfect tool for everyone, but it was what I needed as I improved. So if you're interested, make sure to click the link in the description to download it today. I promise you, you won't regret it. One of the first things I learned as a player was that confidence wasn't some sort of shallow concept of feeling like you're the best or something like that. No matter what you think, you can't really lie to yourself. If you don't feel confident, the solution isn't to just feel confident. That only makes you arrogant if you're trying too hard and insecure if you're self-aware. For me, confidence wasn't as simple as saying some magic words and shooting some heads in the range. Instead, it was something deeper than that which required introspection. While being confident is a trait that is common among good players and especially the top players, one realization I've made throughout the years is that confidence isn't the same for everyone. And that also means advice for building confidence isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Depending on what your main form of confidence is, you need different approaches. So I'm going to cover some of the types of confidence I've seen in teammates throughout my years of competitive FPS, and also give some insight on how to build that confidence. One very common form of confidence I see in players who are grinders is a sort of confidence built upon the flow state. For them, their confidence derives from feeling on top of their game and knowing that their aim is on point. Their maximum focus and they're ready to win. If this is you, then your goal is to feel on top of your game and ready to shoot. For players like this, warm-up might actually be aim training, and it's more important to focus on the feeling of being able to play your best than anything else. For some other players, confidence derives from the feeling of being very skilled. This is a type of confidence that relies on seeing results and becoming better. Kind of like how if you train your aim and some stat magically goes up, then you would feel like you're achieving something or becoming better at the game. For people going to the gym, it's basically the equivalent of lifting heavy weights easily or having big muscles or whatever. This kind of confidence is built through gaining skill. The next confidence is my type of confidence, which is confidence from knowledge. If I know what I'm doing and what my intended goal is, then it's much easier to feel at ease because everything feels intentional. Whether that be my practice routine or my in-game setups, knowing the why was super crucial to feeling like I was actually improving, because otherwise I would hesitate and wonder if I was making a mistake. For players like this, knowing the options and having goals is super important, or else you'll just feel lost. The last one I will cover is self-confidence, which everyone knows about. This type of confidence is more about trusting yourself and knowing that you're capable of doing whatever you set your mind to. Honestly, self-confidence is kind of the buildup of every other confidence I just listed and makes you a confident player. But not having self-confidence isn't a bad thing unless it's significantly affecting your capacity to improve. And of course, it's important to point out that every type of confidence I just listed affects you in some way, although some types of confidence affect you more. It's a good idea to take a look at which style of confidence affects you the most so you can build it up to become a better player. And that leads me to the question of the day, which is, what type of confidence affects you the most? Like I just mentioned, confidence for me is knowing the right move and having a good idea of what I need to do. Understanding why is super important to me, because I'm an anxious person and the only way to prevent myself from questioning every move I make is to have an answer for every move I make. Let me know which type of confidence you run off mainly in the comments below. So some of you guys may be saying, okay, cool, but what does that have to do with me improving then? Well, the point of me giving this whole speech about confidence is that to improve quickly, you first need to solve your problems with confidence in relation to training. For some people, weak flow confidence is due to lacking aim training scenarios that feel challenging or rewarding. For others, weak strength confidence is because they're training but not seeing any results, or they don't feel like training will make them good enough. And for me, my issue was that grinding for hours and hours affected my confidence because I don't feel like I'm training with a purpose, and instead substituting it with time to just brute force. When it comes down to it, you have to know what type of confidence affects you the most and fix those issues. In my opinion, good training needs 3 key things. It should feel challenging, it should feel productive, and of course, it should feel intentional. If these requirements aren't met, then there's something wrong with your routine and you need to do some problem solving. After all, each of these traits is based on some type of confidence. To put that into perspective, if you can find the right routine that you can train confidently with, then you can improve very quickly as well. But finding that right routine is hard to do if you don't have a good grasp on what you're missing. And this is the basic gist of how you train as a player. Just like how it's almost impossible to study for a test in a very loud environment, it's also almost impossible to improve if you're not confident in your training. So the question now is, how do you become confident in your training? Well, here's how you do it. First of all, figure out why you don't feel confident. Whether it's not feeling like you're being challenged or not knowing what you're doing, take a note of what it is that feels off when you're training. Then, try to figure out if there's anything you can do to make that feeling better. For example, I used to hate aim training because I didn't see results and I felt like I was just parroting some other player's suggestion without knowing why. What solved that for me was going on AimLab because the scenarios were specifically tailored for certain skills, and I also had a score that I would constantly try to beat. Basically, knowing what I felt was lacking led me to find what I needed to make training feel more complete. If it's a lack of a challenge, I found harder scenarios that pushed my limits or went for higher scores. If it was being productive, I would try to make sure I improved my scores every day. What's important is to know what's missing so you can find it. And finally, repeat that process as you continually improve as a player. If you have the knowledge of what you need and you can find what you need, then all that's left is to keep going and witness the magic. The single most common mistake people make when approaching improving as a player is that they don't know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how. For the players who have tons of time and are super passionate, this usually isn't an issue because they can bump their way along and solve things as they go. But for people who don't have that luxury, that's just not a practical approach. But if you can find yourself a routine that makes you confident and excited to see results, then I can promise you that 1 hour of your time is equal to 3 hours of that other guy's. Because you have the confidence to train and you know how it translates into your gameplay, you build not only a strong mindset to improve, but also a more efficient pathway to achieving your goals. So just because you only have 3 hours a day, doesn't mean you strictly lose to the other guy with 8 hours a day. It's all about knowing what the next step to improving is and acting on it. And I know, I didn't really give you any specific routines to follow or some cool playlist to do, but I feel like that kind of stuff really doesn't help, and that if you wanted to improve quickly, you'd probably have already looked at like 5 different aim lab playlists or something already. What I wanted to do was set you up for success as a player because reaching a high level in Valorant or any FPS title isn't a 2-week deal. It's a journey of months to years, and one playlist isn't gonna last you the whole trip, but this knowledge will. It's been Royal G, and I'll see you guys next time.